sorry, I forgot that we're on Zoom and I have to have this. I'll repeat that. Advancing innovation in adult education, California's EdTech strategies. So we're going to share with you information that OTAN, really, it's through OTAN, through a contract that we have with them through our WIO Title II funding. And they're doing amazing work for us. And I know nationally they're recognized and will be recognized at the next session. So at the general session for an innovative practice. And so we just want to share information with you and let you know what we're doing. And I think you're next.
Okay. You want to do the agenda?
Yeah, I thought you were doing the agenda. No? All right, here's our agenda. I'm not going to read it to you. I'm just going to let you glance at that. But our hope is that once you leave this session at the end, that you'll understand some of the approaches that we have to ed tech in our state, that you'll learn about our continuous improvement plan, which has mandatory technology goals, and that we're going to have some discussion about the use of educational technology in adult learning. And we'll talk about some real world applications for technology strategies in adult ed programs.
That was my slide. She totally covered it for me. Thank you so much. Good morning, everybody. I'm trying to do a hybrid session successfully, but we'll see. We don't have anybody in the room yet. So otherwise we would be presenting right here so that the camera, otherwise, yes. So I just wanted to welcome everybody this morning. Thank you so much for joining us. We are coming to you from California, so where it is 6 a.m. But we're here and we're cheery. My name is Netta Anasari. I'm the Technology Projects Coordinator for OTAN. OTAN stands for the Outreach and Technical Assistance Network. We're actually housed at the Sacramento County Office of Education and funded by the California Department of Education. We are one of 3 state leadership projects that serve the adult ed providers in our state. Our focus is specifically EdTech innovation, and hybrid, distance, blended learning, alternative learning formats. Beyond my job, I am a person that follows all these things. I am a diversity, equity, inclusion, belonging advocate. I am an EdTech enthusiast, so it's a perfect job for me. A professional developer, designer. I'm a mom of a 23-year-old who is going to give me a heart attack if she does not graduate this year. This is year 6, so she better graduate. Practicing Muslim. I am a New York City native, and I see my friend on the other side there talks a little bit about how she is a Chicago Cubs fan. I'm a Yankees fan, and so, right. I'm the daughter of 2 Yemeni immigrants. They were adult learners at one point when they arrived in the United States. Arabic heritage advocates. We are actually April 1st, so this is Arabic Heritage Month. So I'm happy to celebrate that with you all in April. I'm an educator, a lifelong learner, and my pronouns are she, her, and hers.
Good morning, and I'm Carolyn Zachary. I'm the State Director for Adult Education in California. I am certainly a leader as the State Director and an advocate for adult education. I'm on the NASDA board. The NASDA is the National Association of State Directors of Adult Education. I'm the Secretary Treasurer of our board. I am also a mom of 2 children. One of them is in the Air Force. I am a grandmother. My grandson calls me Yaya. And I'm 14 months from retirement. I am an LGBTQIA ally, an Illinois native, and a very enthusiastic Cubs fan and Chicago Bears fan. I love exploring AI and learning things that it can do. And my pronouns are she, her, hers. And I have to say that I have a staff member, speaking of AI, in my office who loves AI even more than I do. And I had a challenge, and I couldn't figure out how to take from our NASDA website to take our directory of state directors and put it into a spreadsheet because it's just on the website. And our executive director doesn't have it in a spreadsheet. And I needed it to do our dues letter to do a mail merge. And I said, how do you do this, Pat? And she said, oh, I just do it all by hand, right? I just type it all in. And I went, okay, no. So I tried a couple of things that I thought might work. So then I messaged my staff member, Corey, and I said, okay, Corey, I have an AI challenge for you after this meeting. Do you have time? And he said, oh, yeah, I have time. And so he took our website, the director website, put it into Notebook LM and asked it to make a table. It made a table, and then he took the table and put it into Gemini and asked Gemini to make it a Google Sheet, all within 10 minutes. Do you want those down, Tatiana? If anyone is kind of on this side, I'm not sure which ones they are. Anyway, I just, I love AI, and then I felt like I learned so much just in those 10 minutes from him on using two different platforms. And we've been using, or I've been using Notebook LM to take the articles from the COABE Journal and making them a podcast for my deputy superintendent who's wanting to learn more about adult ed. So it's really short, 10, 15 minutes. And she says, I can do that while I'm making dinner for my family. I can listen to that. So we've told you a little bit about us. We'd like to know who's in the room. We were hoping that this Slido thing was going to work, but it's not working. So, and we're a small group, so we'll just whip around the room. If you want to just tell us your name, your state, and your role. We'll start over there. Retired OTME, brought back by Miss Nevin to do projects. I love it. Which is in the Bay Area, not in
I'm Liz Bohan. I'm with the DAPC, which stands for Distance Education Professional Development. Not part of people. Yes, I do need to talk. My class of program people my main project right now, and I help help with awesome.
My name is Ben. I'm from Louisiana. I'm the program director for Distance and Digital Learning for Adult Education.
My name is Camelia Brooks. I'm in Texas. I used to live in California, but I'm back here. I work for Arlington Public Library. We're part of the Texas Workforce Commission Consortium, for the consortium, and I'm a GD teacher. And
Awesome.
my name is Betty. I'm from Rhode Island. I'm the technology teacher in Providence, Rhode Island.
We welcome you to California anytime if you want to be.
My name is Jose Adorno. I'm from Connecticut, and I work at professional development in the adult training and development. We have one person in tech.
Awesome. Thank you. And Jose is also our tech support. Thank you, Jose. Did they introduce themselves in the chat? Audrey, awesome. I don't have to stand in front of the camera. Thank you, Audrey. I appreciate you. Awesome. Well, welcome online folks, Audrey and Brenda. Oh, awesome. Brenda, Stephanie, and Audrey, thank you so much for joining us online. We appreciate you being here and welcome. All right. So we are going to dive a little bit into the work that we do in California. One of the things that I wanted to kind of show to you today was the fact that we do provide resources and tools, but we're actually here to talk to you a little bit deeper, on a deeper level, on what that means for our state when it comes to innovation. We are a state leadership project, like I've mentioned. Now that I have online folks, I will be standing right here. We offer trainings, so any type of training that has to do with EdTech development. That means that I need to engage more folks with using digital tools. So I would like to incorporate that in my lesson planning and my engagement. We send out trainers. We have over 400 agencies in our state that are small, medium, and large. They are in rural areas, urban areas, and so on. We kind of break up our state into kind of southern, central, northern California. And so we travel up and down the state to provide those trainings. We have a pretty robust website, otan.us, otan.us, where you will find a plethora of resources. Specifically, ready-to-go lesson plans. They're actually called the Teaching with Technology lesson plans. So if you have an educator who is only working 2 hours, 3, 4 hours a week and teaching that GED class or teaching that ESL class, and they need kind of a grab and go lesson plan, you can visit our website and take that lesson plan and make it yours. We use the Triple E framework. That's where you engage, enhance, and extend learning in the classroom. If you're familiar with SAMR, if you're familiar with TPAC, it's a similar, in my opinion, easier to use, easier to transfer those skills to our learners. So we incorporate a lot of that in our lesson planning and any of the trainings that we do. We offer academies, so we have many of our educators that participate in 2-year academies. We are winning the State Innovation of the Year award today for one of the academies. Yes, thank you, thank you. We offer symposiums throughout our state once a year. We invite many of our educators to join us for a fun time using EdTech tools and resources. We offer a state learning management system, an LMS. Canvas specifically, we rolled that out a couple of years ago. Accessibility training. We have partnerships with organizations like Literacy Minnesota, who are the managers of North Star. So anybody that is offering digital learning or digital literacy support, we are with them. But like I said, this is all great when it comes to delivering all the trainings. We got that covered. But what we really wanted to do is work on strategy. We wanted to work on implementation. How do we implement? Because oftentimes there are inequities everywhere in our state because we have rural agency, we have urban agencies with various funding throughout the state. We find that rationale and strategy and implementation is really where we need to start. So almost here are all the tools, here are all the resources, and then we kind of take a step back and say, well, here's the guidance and how to use it. And so I'm actually going to transition in just a little bit. This was kind of a snapshot of all the tech that we are using in California currently. We are using owl cams which is this picture here on the left side of the screen. I shouldn't say this picture here, right? That's not accessible. And yes, and then many of us are using kind of Rachel devices and Raspberry Pis, which is a kind of a localized internet hub, so to speak, for those that can't access internet or have good bandwidth in their areas. We do AR and VR. We are doing so much when it comes to this blended idea of teaching, so high flex and hybrid. So we're using IPVOs and other things. So this is just kind of a glimpse of a lot of the tech that we are offering and why we need a digital guidance document. And that's essentially why we're here today, is to talk to you about some of California's strategies on guidance, implementation, and what we do through our plan. We offer a continuous improvement plan every year. So I'll start with the digital guidance document. This was created in 2022. And that is significant because we rolled it out in July of 2022. What happened in November 2022? ChatGPT. So it was great for us to roll out and introduce a digital learning guidance document, but 2 months later, it was out of date. So I'll talk a little bit about how we got there. Essentially, what we wanted to do is bring our educators, our administrators to a place where they can find resources on why am I in adult education? What are the foundations of andragogy and adult learning theory? What does that mean? Okay, I can find it in this digital guidance document. I can also understand a little bit more about access to devices. What does that mean? And what are the resources available in our state that can help me find access to devices? Also, understanding that there are digital inequities in our state. We also wanted to highlight, how we can navigate that and create digital communities. So essentially, the purpose of this document was to enhance our digital equity and access. We wanted to incorporate all the adult learning theories and digital education methods into one document and promote flexible and inclusive learning environments. And we had this through the support of our California Department of Ed and our state administrator, Dr. Zachary, who post-pandemic said, we need this. And the highlight through that was the fact that our K-12 system created one for the K-12, and our voices, the adult ed voice, was not in it. And so that was one of the highlights is, okay, well, since we're not in it, let's create something that is for us, where all of our educators and administrators can go in and basically use this tool as a dictionary, as a Bible, so to speak, that can help them, navigate digital learning and incorporate digital learning into their programs. So here are the key components of the digital learning guidance. We wanted to make sure, like I said, I touched on this already, digital equity and access, flexible learning experiences. We want our agencies to realize that the adult learner is them, right? When we go enroll in classes, what are we looking for? Flexibility, right? I work full-time. I want to take a night class. Sometimes I can't show up to that night class. How do I log on later, right? So not stripping ourselves from the adult learner. We ourselves are the adult learner. And so how do we create those flexible learning experiences and highlight the work that's already being done in our state? So hearing from the voices as well that's already been done. I'm a data nerd, but many of us in adult education have to be because we want to continue that funding. So we had to incorporate a component of our digital learning guidance to include data-driven instruction so that we can incorporate a lot of those CASAS reports. And what does that mean when it comes to digital learning? And I think I already touched on that, inclusive digital communities. That goes beyond digital literacy, digital learning. It goes, how do I belong online? So think of that digital citizenship pieces and so on. Oh, that's essentially what we're trying to capture in the digital learning guidance. So the K-12 created their digital guidance, then adult ed created their digital guidance. And we always pride ourselves that we took it a step further. We took it from a PDF that can sit on your shelf, oh so lovely. It's so pretty. We did all this work. We spent all this money, but who's going to open it? Let's be realistic. So we wanted to make sure that there were implementation pieces to the digital learning guidance document. So we continued to contract with many of our writers and many of our trainers to ensure that we have implementation strategies through readers' guides, facilitators' guides, a Canvas course, anything that can help them implement this guidance document in real life at their agencies. So if you're interested, it is on the OTAN website, otan.us, and you are more than welcome to give it a look. But that is what we kind of hoped that the implementation to the digital guidance would do. I thought we were going to be in a bigger room, but that's okay. We pivot. So I wanted to kind of break up and kind of let you guys talk to each other a little bit. So my question, this is a four corners activity, and so we'll probably just do, maybe we'll do four corners. They won't be corners. That's okay. Okay, which of these four areas should be the highest priority when setting digital learning goals? And I want to hear from you, and we're going to tie it back to the digital learning guidance. So, this will be corner one, so the four right here. This will be corner two right here, corner three right here, and then corner four. Excuse me. A, B, C, D. So take a couple of minutes and talk a little bit about which of these four areas should be the highest priority when setting digital goals in your program. A, you're going to talk about digital equity and access, ensuring all learners have access to technology and internet. What are you doing in your state to do that? How are you doing it? And what are some of your implementation strategies? Same for B, effective teaching with technology, provide professional development for educators to integrate technology into instruction. How are you doing that currently? Learner-centered digital experiences using tech tools or digital tools to create flexible, personalized, and engaging learning environments. And D, data-informed decision-making. Please start talking to each other. I'm sorry? Excellent. Thank you so much. Okay, let's come back. Wrap up that thought. Online friends, I hope you have been adding to the chat. I know Jose has been engaging you and added an option for you. Can we, Jose, what are our chat friends saying? Did they add anything? Let's have them go first. Oh, yes. Very difficult to choose because they all seem important. Thank you. Yeah, if you know tech tools, it will be hard to use them effectively in the classroom, correct? So we heard that B would be their immediate priority so that they can be better at A. Thank you so much for contributing to that. I'm walking away from the camera so I can hear a little bit more from our folks. How about A? Do you have anything to share with us from your group?
So we talked a lot about digital equity and access, and the main thing there is trying to assess what you have, both with in terms of the needs of your students and your instructors, but then also what you have in terms of resources at your different facilities, right? At your different providers. So once you get that in play, then there's a variety of solutions here that we talked about, like hotspots, but then you have the issue of abusive technology, also with the budget issues. We talked about those constraints there. So trying to find cost-effective ways, especially with the digital literacy support. So for instance, in Louisiana, we're building out of our Canvas as well to do some training and resources for instructors and also for our site administrators and for students as well, and trying to link them all together. So,
Thank you so much. That pretty much captures a lot of what we were thinking in our chapter on digital equity and access. You know, essentially, there's only so much grants that we can kind of include. There are only so much pieces of that, but it's back to what is the importance of access? How do we incorporate it into our systems and our programs and roll it out where it's equitable to all of our students? Yes. How about B? Can you tell us a little bit more about your conversation with effective teaching with technology?
Yes, I'm afraid Penny got an earful of, all our technology successes, teaching with technology at Sequoia Adult School. We are lucky. We don't have huge constraints in terms of funding. So we have Chrome cards in each room. We loan Chromebooks to students. All our instructional materials are on Canvas. So teachers can access it, and they access it all the time for, EL Civics materials, for lesson plans, for reporting. It's all digitized, all on Canvas, as well as students. Students go to Canvas and they do their homework, so they are accountable to the teachers. Teachers can look at their materials. In addition to Canvas, the teachers use Google Classroom also. They teach, they also put some lesson plans on Google Classroom and homework. So there is constant communication digitally between the students and the teachers. In addition, we have such programs as data 24/7, I think, when we can send messages to students and alert them if the class is canceled for some reason or we have some other changes in schedules. Now we are transitioning to parent squares. Our school district started using that. And so our next CIP technology goal will be about parent squares. So we're targeting, of course, the student population. We are doing PD for teachers so they can teach the students how to access that program, how to respond to the messages, and even for those who have students in the school district, might help them to communicate with the school community. So we are lucky that we have all that. We're developing other tools. Anytime the teacher's asking me, I want to purchase Kahoot, I want to purchase, I don't know, we have a list of different entertaining programs that are engaging students in games, in learning, and they always get that. Thank you very much for listening. I know I'm boasting a little bit, but I'm proud that we have a program like that.
And we are proud of you. Thank you so much for setting the example. And that's essentially what we're saying here when it comes to teaching with technology. What investments are we making towards rolling that out effectively? How about C? Derek? Oh, I see. I see.
Hi. It's funny when we talked, listening to everybody else, I'm like, oh yeah, we do that. Oh yeah. So I forgot some things, but in our discussions, I'm sorry, I forgot your name. Sherry uses, you do the loaner laptops and things like that for students, which I think is so important because we're very stingy at my institution in doing that. I would like to see more of that. We use, Essential Education, Burlington English as the standard things, and we do the tape testing in Arizona. What else do we use? Oh, we do the Remind app. Some of our teachers do that. And they find it it's great, but it's also kind of taxing, in my opinion, for the teachers because they're getting texts at 9 o'clock, but they're always telling me, I don't care. It'll take me 2 minutes to clear that up, and I'll do it. So they don't want to. They can do it. They turn it off over after a certain time, but yeah, they're pretty dedicated. Some of my instructors are great. What else did we talk about for that?
Challenging ESL instructors, totally being comfortable with technology.
Yeah. So Sherry was saying her ESL instructors find it very difficult they don't have the digital or the technology skills or confidence for teaching, using those tools, right? Okay.
Right. And we see that a lot with the low digital skills, right? And even when we try to incorporate programs like North Star, right, that hits kind of an intermediate level, or even the Google Applied Digital Skills, right? Those are too advanced and too intermediate. And just yesterday, Jose and I were talking about, and they're doing such amazing things in his state, to roll out digital literacy effectively using a lot of what Texas has created when it came to their DART curriculum. And I hope that's what you're like, I'm ready to talk about that one. Okay, so, so I'm going to actually hand it over to Dee, where maybe that will come up.
Good segue. I did not set her up for that. So D was data informed decision making. And in my group, we have somebody from HiSET and somebody who's new to adult education. So we kind of rolled with me, and I do professional development for adult educators. So my students are the teachers. North Star is a great place to start to assess what do our teachers know about digital literacy. And like you mentioned, sometimes it's too high and they feel unsuccessful. And I'm lucky enough to know Dr. Glenda Rose, who co-created a program named DART, Digital Access Resilience and something, from Texas. Go to the tcall.edu and you can access it. It's free, completely paid for by another corporation who needed something. And she said, I'll do it, but you must make it free to everyone at the end. And that's how it exists. It is a very robust program, easy to follow, made for folks with low digital literacy and very low English. I don't even know your alphabet yet. I will send it to you. I will send you the link.
Yeah. Put it in the chat. Yeah. Find it in the chat and put it in the chat. So that's what we kind of talked about. And we talked about having a way to track GD students or ESL students through testing if you're using CASAS or TABE, and you can pull in CASAS the big reports for the whole class, or if you're taking a high set, or if your state is GED like us in Texas, pulling their failed tests potentially and seeing where can I fill in the gaps. And then the refinement is very case by case. You got to know what's the barrier, right? What are the barriers in my local community and my local program? Because what's happening in a major city is very different than what's happening in the rural area. And coming from that, what's the barrier to let's collaborate, let's all pull the pieces together, because you need all the stakeholders involved, not just Liz's idea of how to do North Star. So it's case by case. And there's, from what I've seen, no one size fits all to fix it.
Thank you so much. This is why our partnerships, make a difference because, for us, for the digital learning guidance document, as much as we love data and we use it to drive a lot of our decision making, we're not the data experts. So that partnership with CASAS and CalPro and so on really helps us kind of identify those points on how to track data, which they've done significantly well in even adding components like, is this a high flex class? Are you delivering some of it blended? Are you delivering? And that helps us track kind of where our learners are, how are they being, tracked in our system to be able to even make more informed decisions on how to program. Yeah.
Not trying to do any promotion here. There's looking into Dart. If you are interested, I did put it in the Hoover app. There's a link in the chat. Around lesson 9 and 10, it starts to incorporate North Star a little bit as an option. So if you're looking for a way to like onboard back into North Star, that's one way to do it. The other thing, and was what Nada was mentioning, I'm going to put it in the chat. We were working with the curriculum, kind of giving you like a beginning, like middle ground, and a more advanced one, looking in more on the digital literacy side. But it does follow the same pattern for English language learners that need something a little bit more targeted that you could adapt to the English language level and move up. I will include that link. That's part of Connecticut, but it's free for you to access. We have a spreadsheet. I'm a fan of spreadsheets if you wanted to look at it that way. But if that's too much to look at, you just pick the curriculum and it'll show you like what's the overlap.
Thank you so much, Jose. So take a look at our digital learning guidance. Know that what you're looking at is a version of our 2022. It is going through a refresh right now. We have hired some partners to come in and also work with a team of advisors to say, hey, what are the missing elements? What can we add to it? And how can it be that much more beneficial? And that includes updating a lot of our implementation materials as well. We're hoping to roll that out in fall of 2025, and we should be adding some AI elements to that so that we can ensure that our educators are fully prepared to deliver and use AI strategically. Derek, did you want to add something? Yeah. So Derek is asking. So while we were sharing out, we talked a little bit about those student information systems. Parent Squares was mentioned and others. And so Derek is asking how that rollout is going, if somebody can kind of share some of those experiences. I'm sorry? Okay. So Jose, if you don't mind sharing that comment and then handing it back, the mic, and then about 3 minutes for this conversation.
In the chat, it says that I have found Remind is overwhelming for students who are parents, especially when they have multiple children in classes and their teachers use Remind too.
Maybe that person's from my program. We stopped using it for that reason. it did not help with retention. It added confusion, and the folks who were parents, which face it a lot, were couldn't. And we're now on a different platform entirely for onboarding. I don't have a solution. I don't know if anybody does. Your program use it?
We don't have that data at this time. We don't. No, I don't. I think for the students who are already determined and dedicated, I find that they use it more from what I understand. I don't use it myself, but my instructors do. So I find that those are the ones that'll use the app. They, however, use it to harass our students for coming in when they need to come in or completing assignments or things like that. But yeah, sometimes it's the students don't always respond. So yeah.
So we ran a pilot in Louisiana with 2 of our programs with a company called EdSites. I don't know if you know what EdSites is, but it is a 24/7 AI chatbot. Well, not chatbot. It is receptive and expressive. So it goes 2 ways. Students can reach out to it 24/7, and it also sends out planned messages. So it takes a lot of the lift off of the faculty, off of the instructors, and off of the staff there. It's been awesome. Like, it has helped a lot with retention and helping out with students that have issues that are outside of our normal hours, even for those that don't want to set their hours, unlike mine, those sorts of things. So if you want to talk to me about EdSites, please do. I'll help you out with that.
Well, I hate to cut this conversation. This is my favorite kind of session when we're learning from each other. But we do want to talk a little bit more about some other strategies that we do in California when it comes to rolling out, implementing, and ensuring that we have plans in place for continuous improvement. So I'm going to hand it over to Dr. Zachary to tell us a little bit more about what we're doing in California for the continuous improvement plan.
All right, thank you, Netta. So in California, when I started in my position in 2017, our agencies were required to do 2 plans annually. They were required to do a professional development plan that was due in the end of October, reviewed and approved, and then supposedly implemented. And then they also had to do a technology and distance learning plan. That wasn't due until like the end of December, March, I don't know. January 30th, right? So it's a plan. And I thought, okay, why are we doing these plans one mid-year, right? It's a plan. And you've already sent people to professional development before we've reviewed your plan or approved your plan. So it didn't really make a lot of sense to me. Plus, I had this theory that I was sure that those plans were written by the school administrator over the weekend before they were due with a bottle of wine. And that they sat on the shelf, right? That was it. They weren't used. And so we kind of I took some ideas from WASC, which is the Western Associations of Accreditation, Western Accreditation of Schools and Colleges. And this idea of you needed to bring together everyone to develop a plan, and then to use SMART goals to actually make this plan useful. And to have it due, it's due April 30th for the next year, right? So this year, everyone's worked this month, everyone's probably frantically working on their plan, their continuous improvement plan that will start July 1. So it's for the next year. That was really hard for some people to understand because they had been writing these plans mid-cycle, right? Mid-year. So this idea of forward thinking and planning was a challenge for them. And then we said, okay, you have to write these 3 SMART goals. And then SMART goals were a problem. And people didn't know, educators didn't know how to write SMART goals, even though we gave them a lot of training. So we've done a lot of training on SMART goals. And then a couple years ago, we said, okay, now you have to incorporate one of your goals has to be technology, right? We're going to help you figure out some of your goals. So one has to be technology. And so now we have one that's based on technology. That was sort of the evolution of that. And we started those in, gosh, I think in 2020 with the next RFA cycle that we had. And they're not onerous, I don't think, as those other plans were, right? Those other plans were very onerous. So we'll talk about sort of that process. It's really planned for that ongoing, right, improvement, looking at your data, increasing efficiency and effectiveness in our programs, and really having our agencies look at their program and determine where they want to move their program to. The idea was that this would really impact our learners. It would help at the school level to improve and enhance program quality. We wanted them to use, and we still do, we want them to use data to determine what their goals are. We also wanted them to think about their learners and how they could personalize the learning for their students within their goals, improve those student outcomes, and ensure that students had access to resources. Some of the other factors that are part of this continuous improvement plan is one, it was this forward-thinking document. And that was really challenging for a lot of our agencies. They kept saying, but so we're writing these goals for things we did this year? No, you're writing the goals for your next year. That was a big challenge. We also wanted to make sure that not only were they useful for their WIOA funding, but in California, we have our state-funded programs, which are often our WIOA-funded programs as well. And through our California Adult Education Program, they have to write within their consortia. Our California is divided into, we have 71 community college districts, and our state is then divided into those districts for our CAPE program. So it's that community college district and all of their K-12 adult programs within a region, so within a consortium. The idea is that they're meeting the needs of those students within that region. They're collaborating on services, so we're not being repetitive of services, right? You're not having low, intermediate, ESL at the adult school and across the street at the community college, you have the same program, right? The same class, unless there's a wait list at both places, right? And then you're really meeting that need. But they have to write annual plans and a 3-year plan. Right now they're in their 3-year planning cycle. And we want our agencies to use their SIP to inform what they're going to be doing with their 3-year plans. So they're not reinventing the wheel, right? And then we also have WASC or COE accreditation. And again, those also have goals. So the whole idea was you don't have your SIP goals, your CAPE goals, and then your accreditation goals. And we worked with WASC. We showed them our SIP. We worked with WASC. And so now that's actually incorporated into their WASC visit. And there's this idea that if we can focus these goals, then we can really move the needle for our students. In our department, one of the areas that we've looked at is our gaps between our students who are, they come to orientation and then that's it, right? You never see them again. So why is that? So there's that gap of 1 hour or less than 12 hours and they don't get to that 12 hours. And then our 12-hour students that have 12 hours or more and don't stay to do a post-test. So we've been calling that Mind the Gaps. And this year we actually wrote a goal for that, and we'll talk about that in a minute. And our other goal is really to increase our collaboration with our Title I partners and our local workforce development boards, because we do an annual evaluation that helps us write our WIOA narrative. And we ask all of our agencies to answer questions to help us understand that, because as Netta said, we have, well, for WIOA, we have over 200 grantees. And so it's really hard to know what's going on unless we survey them and ask them questions. And so that what we're learning from that was since the pandemic, this collaboration has really dropped and we're not collaborating as much. And so we want them to collaborate. We have agencies, they say it's really hard to figure out what goal to write. And we said, okay, well, here's 2 areas that we're focusing on. So maybe pick one of those. And the idea is that overall, this is going to benefit the students in our state to really achieve their learning goals that they want. So the first step in all of this is to gather and review your data, but not in isolation. We have really stressed the idea of a team, that you're bringing together teachers, classified staff, the administrator, students, right? Students, these are adult learners. They should be involved in this. And so bringing them all together to look at the data, we are a CASA state, so they're looking at their CASAS data reports. They're looking at their NRS data, specifically tables 4 and 5. They're looking at that implementation survey that I talked about, right? Where are you? How are you sitting with your Workforce Development Board? How did you answer those questions related to that? Where do you need to improve? We do, because we don't require Social Security numbers, any student we don't have a Social Security number for, we have to do an employment and earnings follow-up survey, very short 4-question survey. And so how are you doing on that? We also have a teacher self-assessment for technology that OTAN has. What does that look like? So really bringing all of these in. We also, during the pandemic, we're trying to figure out, well, how can we help agencies understand what technology students have access to? And so we brought a field team together and we developed a student technology intake survey that we're still using. And we actually were sharing it as we were writing our, with the state agency writing our digital equity plan. And that really helps teachers to see, or administrators to see, who needs a device if I have a device loaner process, right? Who needed a MiFi or a hotspot, and it really helped during that beginning of the pandemic. And now it's helping our agencies to see what students really would benefit from high flex programs. How do we implement more online learning, high flex programs, but also who needs those technology pieces. So that was important. Looking at the priority sectors of their local workforce board, any other data that they wanted to bring in. So it's looking and gathering at all this data with the team and to talk about what that looks like. Yes. Okay. Before I pass it to you. Yes. Sure. The 4 questions, we tried to get them as low. Oh, the question was, what are the questions that we have on our employment and earnings survey? It's a 4-question survey that goes out by email or text through a CASAS wizard. The 4 questions are, we start with, are you currently enrolled in adult school? Because this is a student that's 6 to 12 months out from being enrolled in your school. Are you currently enrolled in an adult program? If they say yes, then the next question is, where are you enrolled? If it's no, then it gives the school an opportunity to at some point reach out to that student. The next question is, are you currently working? And then the last question is, and they can submit the survey without answering the last question. The last question is, how much do you make a month? So that's the survey. It's 4 questions. They have to go up to question 3, but we have to ask question 4. They don't have to answer question 4. If they don't answer question 4, we put in $1. That was the recommendation from Octane. So that's our survey. 4 questions. All right, Netta's going to talk about our goals.
So Dr. Zachary is telling you, we're all funded differently, right? There are federal funds, there are state funds, and all these different plans that you walked you through. We have a 3-year plan, an annual plan, an expenditure claim report, a CIP. You name it, we got it. And our agencies will complain and fight us and, talk about and just kind of submit anything, right? And I get it. I'm not, I was at the program level, so I completely understand how that feels, right? Because, there's a compliance piece to all that we do on the, state level, but there's also programming. People want to get the job done at the local level. So how do we make this more integrated? And we're so appreciative of Dr. Zachary's work with, partnering with WASC and other agencies to really help us seamlessly. I mean, we need to do these plans. If you want the funding, you have to complete it. So then how do we kind of talk to each other and make sure it's incorporated? But we wanted to talk a little bit about that goal setting piece, because when it came down to, okay, what are you doing with EdTech? And we'll go out there and we'll talk, and they're like, oh yeah, we're doing all these different things. Well, how come we don't know about it? As a state leadership project that are, we're offering all this training, we don't know what you're doing. How are you rolling this out? What are you incorporating? How specific is it? How do we help you implement it to the best possible outcome for the learner? Okay, we can, Dr. Zachary we were very lucky that she heard us and said, we know that they're incorporating technology, and if they're not, what are they doing to incorporate technology? How are they serving the learners that are not coming into their classes because they have a full-time job and they need to learn, they want to finish their GED, but they don't have those resources? How do we get the agency to be a little bit more invested in that alternative kind of mindset and how to incorporate EdTech? And so we added that one technology goal, which is so helpful for us, because then we kind of force them to look at technology. And they said, oh, we already do that. Okay, now let us know what you're doing and how you're going to, cover that, right? And how you're going to measure it. Absolutely. So, we're going to create these new hybrid classes. Great. What does that mean? How's that going to look like? Are you going to incorporate in one class, 10 classes? How is that going to look like overall? Well, we're going to adapt Canvas. Great. What is that going to look like, as one teacher or 3 teachers? And then how would that look like in your class regularly? We identified a need with digital literacy. Great. Get on our pilot. How do we introduce you to other partners that are offering those things? So that's kind of what we are really kind of trying to tie that into the continuous improvement plan, so that we can have a better, bigger impact when it came to EdTech. And I don't know why it's so complicated. But I also know at a program level, you're doing so much and you just don't have time. So we can relate and we can empathize that, this requires work. And we talked about, this submission happens a day before or a night before because, the week was rough and I had to put out too many fires and I had to, submit this document that if I don't get the check mark, I won't get my dollars, right? So then how do we make this more usable, friendly, and helpful for our agencies? So we actually have to walk them through, just this chart, how to make it specific, how to make it measurable, to make it that much more impactful, to make it that much more achievable. It's such an interesting concept that many of us, we're thinking, we use this every day. We use it with our students, we use it with our kids. But when it came down to our program, it became such a large lift. Oh, wait. And then we introduced them to this. Let me tell you, SMART goal was such, if we were already having resistance with SMART, let me just tell you, adding the inclusive and equitable piece became that much more of a lift. Well, what do you mean? How do I add and include? Well, you're already doing it. We're just saying intentionally, look at that and tell me how this is, is it specific enough and is it inclusive enough? for all of your learners? Are you ensuring equity? And even if you didn't call it out because we didn't add the IE elements to the actual layout of the SMART goal, we wanted them to know that every one of our goals, anything that we offer at our program, should be inclusive and equitable, no matter what guidance we get. So here, we offer this first few steps. Nothing is done in silos. We have big programs, so therefore they should be incorporating all of their team members, including their students, like Carolyn was just telling us. Brainstorming, what are the needs? We told them about the data. We showed you the data and what those data elements were. And then, we gave them examples of, hey, what if you're incorporating the new CASAS assessment? What does that look like at your school? What data do you have? What levels are your students? And how do you roll that out? So I'll hand it back to Carolyn. Tell us a little bit about the state goal.
So I decided we had to, practice what we were preaching. And we developed this goal. It should be 25 to 26 on there. We missed that. But it was really looking at our mind the gaps, and we wanted to increase student persistence from enrollment to 12 plus hours. And so we were very careful on how we wrote this to make sure that it was smart. And so by the end of next academic year, 25-26, we will increase the percentage of students who persist from enrollment to completing at least 12 hours of instruction by 10%. So from where we're currently now, we're going to increase that by 10%. And this will be achieved through the implementation of support strategies such as orientation, counseling, and progress monitoring. So we're encouraging our programs to do an orientation, to do some counseling, to monitor. We're going to monitor our progress. We have a lot of small agencies who said, 3 goals are really hard for us to write. And I said, that was the other piece for this. Okay, here you go. Take this one. Look at your data, plug your data in, and now you have 1 goal done. Yep. So is this mine? Okay. So this is how it's specific, right? Increase the percentage of students who persist and complete at least 12 hours of instruction. And we've done training on this. We've gone over this multiple times with agencies since like December. It's measurable. We're going to track students achieving 12 plus hours in TOPS Pro Enterprise. I think it's achievable and attainable, especially if our agencies are doing support strategies that we would like them to be doing. It's certainly relevant, right? The more students we get to that 12 plus hours, the better our outcomes are going to be, right? So that's relevant for us for looking at our data at a national level. And it's time bound. It's within that next academic year. And so we were able to put all of that in, and then agencies repeat that process with their 2 other goals. Tatiana?
For our school and go to 10% as compared to NRS level over around the state. I have it drafted already. I brought it to our leadership team. We looked at it.
And that's fine. So Tatiana was saying that there was either plagiarism on her side or my side on this. And I'm hoping that you plagiarized us, because that was the intent. The intent was that agencies take that goal and make it their own. If they wanted to, 2, if they were stuck, and 3, to make it easier for our small agencies. And then they just have to repeat it 3 more times.
Yeah. All right. So we did this through training and development. We offered training throughout. You saw how we broke it down by SMART. All of that, we regularly do that. We pull in all the folks that are, for example, have not passed a few times. And we do some one-on-one coaching with them. We really kind of take this and for those that tell us, oh, we're a small agency, why do we have to do 3 goals? you could still do 3 goals even if you're a small agency. Now let's help you find how to make it specific, measurable, attainable, and so on. But that image of our administrators kind of taking that lift, that boulder up the mountain, I mean, I get it. It's a lot of work. So how do we make that easier for them? So we only have 2 minutes, but I do want you to share with each other because I did see some good dialogue going on. We've integrated a continuous improvement plan to ensure that we're touching on all the important objectives that our state has identified for our learners. How are you doing that through your plans, and or if you don't have a plan, could you use a plan? So if you can get into your A, B, C groups, D groups, and then talk a little bit about that. Yes.
The rocket science one.
Yes. Yeah.
And I'll just kind of finish and I'll talk about I'll just talk about the action plan too, because I think that's an important piece.
Okay. Perfect.
Okay. Did you upload the slides? Okay. Okay. So I'll tell them that. Yeah. There's examples of smart goals that are passing or not passing. Yes.
Can you sign me out of things?
Can I sign you out of?
Yeah, just like Google and all of that.
Yeah, I can do that. Yeah. 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 Why don't you go? Yeah.
Okay.
Why don't you go check in? It's okay, go. All right. And I'm going to give you just like 10 more seconds. Okay, and we're not going to share out. If you saw Netta scoot out because she's getting an award and she's supposed to check in backstage at 9. So I'm going to bring us all back. The piece that I wanted to make sure that you also knew is that beyond the SMART goal, the next step is to write an action plan. And so agencies that, how do you implement your SMART goals is with your action plan. And in the action plan, they can identify our state leadership projects that they want to use to pull in professional development that they might need for their teachers, or professional development that they might need on looking at their data, right? So they bring in that action plan. We only look at their goals to make sure that's a change this year, that in the past we've looked at their action plans as well and sort of rated them. Now we're just looking at their SMART goals and making sure that they're smart. And if they're not smart, then we work with them to get them to that point where it's a SMART goal. And I think the piece that I kept trying to help everyone understand is it wasn't rocket science, and we wanted them to incorporate all of these other pieces, right? Their CAPE their CAPE annual goals, their CAPE 3-year planning, their WASC, their COE accreditation goals, so that they weren't reinventing everything in all of these other plans, and we wanted it to be useful. And I think that was the most important piece, because I didn't really think that those professional development plans and technology distance learning plans were useful to them. And so wanting these to be used to move the needle for their students. So I know Netta had to scurry, but we both thank you very much. And I'm happy to answer any questions that might be, Jose, online in the chat, or any questions you might have here. Okay. All right. Well, thank you.